Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. It's another beautiful Wednesday evening. It is the 6th day of September in the year 2023, and it's the On The Mark program on your radio once again. It's a beautiful Wednesday evening. It's a warm Wednesday evening here in Queen City, Nevis, and of course everybody is looking for some relief from this heat, but anyway, we have to contend with it. It's pretty okay where I am here right now, so I'm happy for that. And so I want to especially welcome all of you who are tuned into the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, Vaughan Radio 860 on your AM dial, www.vaughanradio.com, where only the best will do. And it's another On The Mark program, of course, 2 hours of commercial-free talk radio, and of course you know this is one of the most popular radio programs, talk show in the Eastern Caribbean, and it's been going for many years. Of course, your regular host, the Honorable Mark Brandley, is not in this evening, so you will have me, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, to contend with for the next 2 hours. Of course, we know we normally have a very interesting program, and so it won't be any less this evening. And so once again, let me say good night, or good evening, or good morning to you wherever you are in tune, whether you are in St. Kitts Nevis, across the Eastern Caribbean, in the diaspora, and of course whether you're listening via radio, whether you're following online. It's always good to have you on The Mark. Of course, we know this is a program that we share a lot of information, a lot of great information as well, and you also who are listening normally have a chance to call in and share your views on whatever you want to share, whatever you want to put on the table. And so later on, when the lines are opened up, if you want to call in, you'll have a chance to call in as well. Of course, our numbers are 869-469-1616 or 1700. And so it's good to be here with you for another beautiful Wednesday night. And of course, we want you to stay locked into the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, stay logged on. And we want you to stay with us. Call up a friend and say, well, On The Mark is on the radio, On The Mark is online. You need to log on now. You need to tune in. All right. And so as we start this On The Mark for this beautiful Wednesday, first Wednesday in September, where are the months gone? Where are they going? This year is flipping along so very quickly. It just seems like yesterday it was January and now it's almost Christmas. Could you imagine that? And so it's the first Wednesday in September, the 6th, and we're here with you once again. It's nice to have you, and we bid you welcome once again. Of course, we normally start the show on a high note, and so we normally want to say good night and greetings to any of you who are celebrating today, whether you're celebrating a birthday, whether you're celebrating an anniversary, whatever the occasion. We hope that you've had a great day so far, and we want to hail up a couple people who are celebrating today. I want to first of all go down into Anguilla and say good night and happy birthday to my godson, Xavier Claxton. Xavier, I hope you've had a wonderful day, and of course I hope you're going to have a wonderful evening as well. So Xavier, good evening to you. Godfather says happy birthday to you. And here in Queen City, Nevis, I want to say good night and happy birthday to Mrs. Imelda Jeffers over there in Planting Gut. Mrs. Jeffers, I hope you've had a great day so far, and I hope you'll have a wonderful evening. Hope you have a good rest tonight. I know it's your birthday, but make sure you get a good rest tonight. And also want to say good night and sticking in my constituency, Wentworth, Wenty Smitten there in Matchman's Road. Today is your birthday as well. Wenty, I know somebody like you, I know you're having a good day. I know you've had a good day, and I know you're going to have an even better evening. So Wenty, happy birthday. And I understand your mother-in-law, Olive, up there in Fountain, is also celebrating her birthday as well. So Olive Daniel, happy birthday to you. And Vernice, pretty Liberd, pretty. Well, for someone like you, pretty, I know that nobody needs to tell you what to do to have a good time on your birthday. So pretty, I hope you've had a wonderful, wonderful birthday and enjoy what's left of your special day. So those who I call and those who are celebrating today, if you're celebrating today, if you're celebrating tomorrow, all the very best if you're celebrating for the rest of this week, or if you celebrated yesterday or Sunday or whenever. We trust that you've had a great day, and we trust that you'll continue to enjoy, celebrate. Of course, life is meant to be celebrated. It's so fragile. So when we have life, we must celebrate, and sometimes we have to celebrate in style as well. And of course, as I said, how fragile life is, as we say happy birthday and happy anniversary to some. Of course, we also want to greet those persons who are not doing so well, those who are in the bereaved column, and we have a lot of persons in the bereaved column. during the past weeks. And so we want to say good night and condolences to all who are in the bereaved column. And of course, we always do that here from On the Mark. Of course, we want to let you know that we are with you in your time of loss. We are with you in your mourning. We show solidarity with you. And so we reach out to all of you who are in the bereaved column at this time. We want to say first good night to the family of the late Bertram Roach. Of course, we know he would have passed for some time now, but the funeral has not been held as yet, and so we want to say good night and to all of the family members. Bertram was a very good friend of mine. As the Honorable Mark Brantley would have mentioned, he was always the life of the party. You know, loved to dance, always had a great spirit, always had a story to tell. And he would have made a century last year. And we were so happy that we were there at Hermitage to celebrate with him. And it was a celebration in styles. And so we say good night and condolences to the entire family, Vanessa, and all of the children, grandchildren, the extended family. We know that you would miss Roach, but Roach would have lived a very good life. He would have lived a full life, gone at 100. We also want to say good night to the family of the late Gloria Lance, who was my cousin from there in Hanley's Road. She would have passed away in the US. Thankfully, her body is home now, and so we're going to be making plans for that funeral. And so we want to say good night to all of the families, the Lance family, the Evelyn's family, all of the family there in Hanley's Road who were related to Teacher Gloria, as all of us knew her. That is what most of us knew her as, Teacher Gloria. And Teacher Gloria was like a real saint. I described her as Hanley's Road angel. And so we say good night and condolences to all of the family. In particular, I know Justice Perletta Lands was very close to her, and Angelica, and the entire family. And of course, all of us in Hanley's Road, and those who she would have taught for so long at the Gingerland Secondary School as well. And we also want to reach out to the family of the late Michelle Hendrickson Wallace, my good friend Pepe, and of course the boys, to the mom and the dad, to all the sisters and brothers and family members, Agnola and the rest of the family. We say good night to you. I know it's a very, very, very difficult time for you, for the entire family, and I trust that God will continue to be with you at this time. That funeral is set for Saturday, this coming Saturday at 2 o'clock at the Gingerland Methodist Church, with viewing from 1 o'clock. So those of you who can go and support the family, it's always good. We live as a one big happy family here on the island of Nevis, and of course when one person mourns, the rest of the island mourn with you. And so those of you who can go out and support the family, we ask you to go and support them as well. And of course we want to say good night to the family of our dear departed matron Seneca Diaz, who served with distinction at the Alexandra Hospital as a nurse and then as a matron. And of course we know she was such a nice, quiet, lovely, smiling lady who impacted so many lives. And of course we want to say good night and condolences to the entire family, Marini, Gary, Alstead, Sherilyn, all the entire family, and of course the nursing fraternity. Those of you at the hospital, we know that you're going to miss her very, very much, and so we say good night and condolences to all of you. We also want to say condolences to the family of the late Brian Buju Powell. And of course, many persons in your Buju, always smiling, famous for his cook-up and so many other things. His barbecue chicken there in Charlestown. I know he was a hit for the Mango Festival on an annual basis. And so when persons woke up that morning to the news, everybody was in shock. And so that is why I said earlier that life is meant to be celebrated. And when we have it, we must celebrate life and do good. Do good, as Weber would say, do good when you can, because you don't know when you won't be able to do good. And we also want to greet the family there in Brown Hill of my good friend Hubert Brownie Williams. We would have lost him as well. And so we want to say good night to Marv and Juliet and the entire family. Of course, Brownie would have made his mark, especially at the Nevis Electricity Company there, especially at the power plant there at Prospect. And so we say good night to all of you as well, and the family as well of Mrs. Dahlia Shiverton to Strani and the entire family. family. We say good night to you. And there's a Carney Sergeant over in St. Thomas's as well. I don't know the gentleman, but to the family of that person, we want to say good night and condolences to you as well. So I hope I have covered everyone. As I said, we have a lot of people in the bereaved column, and as I said, we need to show solidarity with each other. Nevis is a small community, a loving community, and we need to just show love and support when persons desire that support. We have no idea what a kind word can do, what a hug can do, what a smile can do when people are going through these very, very trying situations. I know what it's like because I've been through it many times, you know. And so those of you who are bereaving, we trust that God will keep you in His grace and in His mercy, and you will find comfort in the great memories that you had of your loved ones. And of course, we want to say good night as well to those who are a little bit under the weather, those who are probably in the hospital, or if you're at home and you're not feeling so well, we want to greet you and we want to say good night to you. Trust and hope you're going to feel much better. Those of you in the hospital, those of you in the nursing homes in Gingerland and Charlestown, we say good night to you, and we say good night to those who are taking such fabulous care of you, and we trust that you're going to have a good night's rest. And as I always say, we need to greet people, because sometimes people are in the hospital, people are in the homes, but they are in tuned to the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. They are in tuned to On The Mark, because everybody wants to listen to On The Mark. And so we say good night to those of you who are there, who are in hospital or in the homes as well. We say good night to you. And so now that we have gotten those little housekeeping matters out of the way, there's so many things that are happening in Nevis and in St. Kitts, and of course we know independence is right around the corner, but there's so many things that are happening, and so many things that we need to talk about, and of course let the public know. I know that the Honorable Premier would have spoken at length sometimes about the Daycare Voucher Assistance Program that the Nevis Island administration is so proud to be launching very shortly. We actually will be launching that program tomorrow, Thursday, at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park at 5 o'clock. And of course, that program came from the need of persons who are in the community. And of course, as the Premier would have said on many occasions, it was the intention. We saw the need. We heard reaction from persons who were out there who wanted assistance. The intention was at some point in time maybe to build, but we decided no. The Honorable Minister Janelle Nisbet and her team, they at her ministry, they decided, well, let's do something a little different. We're going to come up with a voucher program, and so we're going to try to assist persons who are in need of that assistance. And of course, the program is not geared towards helping everyone, but the program is geared to assisting some persons who actually need the assistance. And so I have a little information here that I just wanted to read that came to my phone. I think it was probably yesterday or the day before. And so let me just look for that little clip, or that little information that I should read about the program. And let me get it right now. And it says, exciting news, and of course it is exciting news. Introducing our Daycare Voucher Assistance Program, assisted children for toddlers and assisted childcare for toddlers and infants on Nevis, and the program is dubbed Action Plan. Now, it is with pleasure and immense satisfaction that we announce the upcoming launch, that is September 7th, that's tomorrow, of our brand new Daycare Voucher Assistance Program, Action Plan, through the Department of Gender Affairs. We understand the challenges parents face when balancing work and child care. We heard your cries, and that's why we've created this program to provide much needed support to families in our community. What is it? Our Daycare Voucher Assistance Program, Action Plan, offers a financial daycare subsidy monthly up to $300 to eligible families, making quality childcare more accessible than ever. We have a caller online. Good evening, caller. Hello, good evening. Caller, you're live on The Mark.
Good evening. Hi, good evening. Eric, how are you?
I am doing pretty good, and how are you? I think I know this voice.
I am doing fabulous.
You're always doing fabulous, and you always look fabulous. You always have a smile. You're always so pleasant. and it's always such a pleasure to converse with you and to see you with that lovely smile.
Thank you very much.
All right. So yes, tell me what you're calling about. And listen, I understand you are one of the main reasons why this daycare voucher program was put together. Because
yes.
I understand that the Honorable Mark Brantley was in the Hamilton area. He's always talking about this conversation he had up in Hamilton some time back, and that one of the young ladies would have reached out and said, daycare is expensive. Many young ladies on leave, many single mothers cannot afford daycare. What can the government do? And I understand that you are quite an advocate for not only yourself, but for other single mothers. Tell us about that conversation that you would have had when the Premier visited Hamilton.
Well, when they was doing the walkthrough around election time, he had a meeting with us at Hamilton, and he was asking about different ideas how we can further develop music.
Yes.
And instantly, the idea came to me because I know what I go through as a single parent paying for daycare.
Yes.
So I told him about the idea. At first, he was like, "Oh, we have daycare. The government have daycare." And then I said, "Where are they?" So he said, "Oh, we have Charleston Free." And then he said, "Oh, what you said again?" I said, "Daycare." So he was instantly like, "I never thought of this. This was never brought to my attention. I didn't think of this." And he said, "This is a very, very good idea." I expressed to him some of my concern, like financially. I am working for minimum wage.
Yes.
I have to pay $900. That's just in daycare alone.
Mm-hmm.
That don't have anything to do with the food, the Pampers. At that time, it was 2 children going to daycare. And he was like, "Oh my God, that's too much." And I'm going to help. I'm going to do something to try and help the situation, because that is too much.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, he started to keep me informed. Every time he see me, he would keep me informed of what other step he made.
Mm-hmm.
So I just called him to really thank him.
Mm-hmm.
And the behalf of myself and of others,
Mm-hmm.
because trust me, it was too much. And with this program in place, I'm telling you, it's like a burden lift up off my shoulder. When I would have had to pay $900, it's now like $300. It's even more than half of what I usually would pay.
Mm-hmm.
So I just called in to thank him. And many mothers have approached me and was like, "Oh, I heard you was the one who gave Mark the idea." And I was like, "Yeah." And they hugged me and expressed their love and their gratitude. And, I think it's something that Mrs. really needed,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of financial especially. Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, persons are listening to you, and I'm sure that a lot of persons out there who will be benefiting are very gracious, and they would be very happy that you brought up this idea. So you need to tell the listening public, tell the world what's your name, tell persons who you are, because persons out there don't know your voice like I do.
Yes. Well, my name is Africa Wilk.
Yes.
I live at Hamilton. I work at the Alexander Hospital, well, actually the Flamboyant Nursing Home. And, my thing is this: who better to give this idea than somebody who actually going through it?
Precisely.
And what I admired most about what Mark did is he listened and he did something about it.
That's right.
We have this stigma where we like to say, "Oh, the politician, them only just come home on election, and after that they not study you."
Mm-hmm.
And this showed me that that is not true, because he listened and he took action.
Yes.
And as I said, kept me informed. Every time he make a step, he kept me informed. When he sent me to Africa, I went to Parliament with it.
Yeah, he came to cabinet with it several times.
So, you know, he kept me informed. I knew he was going to do something, but I didn't expect it would be so soon. I'm like, wow. He really listened, and to me, that is leadership, you know?
Definitely.
It's a perfect example of leadership. That is leadership, to listen and to take action, because I know that this will benefit single parents and needy. You know, some people will be like, oh, this and all that, but at the end of the day, Eric, is country above self.
That's
we
right.
have to bring ideas that will benefit the country and not just our own self. This program will benefit so many people that are struggling.
That's right.
I look at my struggle and I say, if I struggle so hard, you could imagine somebody else. You know, I don't know what goes on in their homes, but I just think, like, you could imagine somebody else, maybe they might even struggle harder.
Right.
You know, so this is this is wonderful. I'm telling you, I'm so excited. I mean, Eric, when I heard Mark talk about it in the campaign rally, I remember screaming. I called my mother. She's overseas, and I'm telling her, I said, I gave Mark an idea, and he spoke about it. You know, I was keeping her informed, and I was screaming. I was like, oh my God, Mark spoke about it. And, you know, I was so excited, and I'm still so excited. This is to be highlighted.
Indeed.
This is to be highlighted. This is something great that will benefit the country. And I really, really commend Mark Brantley for taking a stand and do what he said he's going to do. You know?
Yes. And of course, anybody, you just spoke about your struggles, right? And the struggles of other persons. And I have to say that I have great admiration for you, because when anybody sees you and communicates with you, nobody would think that you're struggling, because you're always smiling, you're always so pleasant, always have a lovely countenance. And even though you're struggling, you are thankful, because, I mean, as I said, nobody can see the struggle on your face. Nobody can see the struggle on your face. And Africa, you as a young lady, how does it make you feel to see that an idea that you put out there would actually be put into action and will benefit so many other persons? How does that make you feel?
It made me feel like I am being heard.
Good.
And it boosts my self-confidence, because, you know, in society certain people are being stigmatized, like, oh, you come from this lower class, so people treat you a type of way. So with that idea, and, you know, it made me feel like I am somebody, that I can do great things. Now I'm making wise decisions. I'm just putting my life in order because of this. I want to always be more pleasant. It makes me feel like I am a part of something great. Like I have a voice.
Yes.
And it was heard, and action was taking place. I mean, come on. You know? I'm so excited. Honestly, I'm so excited. I feel so good. I just feel like, you know, I belong now. Now I feel like, yeah, my voice is being heard, and other people in my, you know, who people consider to be lower class or whatever, they can come up with these great ideas also, or even better ideas.
Of course.
To further develop Nevis, to grow Nevis, you know.
And it shows that when we go out and we are talking to persons in the community, they should not be afraid to share their ideas, and do not be shy to share their ideas. As you said, sometimes you go out and people do not want to communicate with you, and of course, but it's always good when because you never know where your idea can fly, you never know where your idea can reach. Because I mean, of course, with this program, you will always be credited as the person who brought the idea, and that will be with you forever.
To cut you, And that's just to show you that we can be anything, because so many of us was there, and my idea stand out above everybody else for people with class, upper class, you know?
Yes.
So, I mean, just for him to just even listen, that was even enough for me, you know? He listened, and to see that he actually did something in listening. I mean, I'm not surprised he did anything, because usually I will share my idea now and again with him, and he usually will take it up.
Yes.
But this one is just like, you know.
And how does it make you feel? How do you feel
to be a part of something great? And to me, I feel like my chest high now, because nobody else, not even you, Eric, not even Spencer, not even nobody else bring this idea here.
Well, we are so happy for you. We are so happy for you. And how do you feel that this idea has been brought to fruition will impact many other young ladies on Nevis? How do you feel about that?
I am really happy that other people will, you know, gain something, because it's hard when you can't afford to send your child to daycare, but you still can't afford not to send them to daycare.
Right.
So I feel like young mothers and even grandmothers have approached me and thanked me. So, you know, I feel like it's a very good thing, and they will benefit. We will benefit, we all, because every children born every day, and everybody want to make a dollar right now. And if you got to spend the dollar where you make just back into the year, it's hard. You don't see the reason why you would even want to go to work. So I feel like this is a very good thing for single mothers and all these young ladies coming up having children, and you know, it is a good thing. It is a good thing for them. I feel like many mothers will be real happy about this program, that they can even pay a less than half of what they usually pay.
Yes.
In daycare, because the daycare price is just too much.
Okay.
It's too much.
Well, congratulations again, Africa. I'm so happy for this call. You call right in the nick of time, because you called when I was just about to talk about the daycare program. So your timing was absolutely perfect. And I'm happy you called in to share your views, to share that you are the one who brought the vision. And yes. I'm happy that your vision is now coming to light and is coming to fruition. And I'm hoping that I'll see you at the launch tomorrow.
Yes, you will see me at the launch.
And of course, I'll see you smiling as usual.
Yes, so, and also, I mean, you know, everybody wants to be a boss, but it is always best to be a good leader. You know, a good leader listens, and a good leader take action, and it demonstrates what type of person he is, meaning coming to child care, because we like to say, oh, children is the future, but then we're not really putting much into the children, so it's better to start from infant stage to go up. You know, so I would like to thank the Honorable Mark Brantley and the Cabinet for listening the idea and putting this thing in place, the action plan in place for struggling people such as myself and others out there. I would like to also thank, and Eric, is the fact that this is in place so soon. And like, wow, this is quick. This is quick. So I would like to thank him again for that, and I'd like to thank him for being a real good leader and that part of listening and, you know, coming now, do what he said he's gonna do, and and also thank you for accepting my call and the question. You know.
And it has been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for the call, Africa. It means so much to us. Thank you. May God continue to bless you and the children, and continue to take care of yourself.
And one more thing, Eric.
Yes.
Sorry, I might be talking too much. I'm just really excited. And this program, it also helped it also helped me mentally.
Yes.
You know, because when you have to think about the bills and the daycare and all of this, it put a strain on you mentally.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So for this program to lift up such a financial burden off of me, I can pay me rent freely now, because that extra $600 I would have put in debt here would go is the exact same $600 is my rent. You know, so it helped me not only financially but mentally. You understand?
Yes, of
because
course.
mentally you have the children, you have the bills, you have this, you have that. You don't really want the extra strain of owing nobody on you. If you understand.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much, my dear.
Yes.
And you have a good night. Talk to you and see you soon. All right, and thanks for the call again. That was Africa Wilkes, and of course, the Honorable Mark Brantley. Every time he spoke about this voucher program, he always credits someone who brought up that idea, and that young lady who you just heard on the radio spoke so passionately. She's the one who brought the idea to us. We have another call online. Good evening. We lost that caller. Caller, could you call back? Actually, I'm expecting another call and hoping that a call from overseas, and so I'm hoping that that person can call back. So caller, could you call back? Yes, I think probably I have that caller online now. We're having a little issue with that call. Good evening, caller. No, that the call dropped, and so we will await for that caller to call from overseas discussing a particular issue. And while we await that call, I could go back to where I was with regards to the information I was given with the voucher program. So let's go back to that information I was giving regarding the voucher program that will be launched tomorrow by the Nevis Island Administration. And so I was here saying that it will be eligible for families, making quality child care more accessible than ever. And of course, do we have that call online? Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Evelyn. How are you?
I am doing pretty good, and how are you doing?
I'm doing very well myself, thank you. What I'm calling about is to ask you if you can kindly celebrate with me
Yes.
on the success of I call him my godson, Mr. Jamal Lewis,
Yes.
who was successful in capturing a passing grade, some of them with distinction,
Yes.
for 7 out of, I think, 8 subjects that he did, or 8 out of 9, whatever the amount is.
Okay.
But I think he did a phenomenal job, and I also think that he has made his parents, Mr. Ken and Andrea Lewis,
Yes.
extremely proud.
Oh, fantastic!
And for that,
Now I catch the voice.
I really want to let the world know
That's the young footballer.
they have done a phenomenal job in raising that child.
And you're talking about the young footballer, right?
Yes, the young
Okay.
footballer who is my godson.
Good.
I call him my godson because
All right.
his mother is my godchild.
Okay,
So
all
we all
right.
are in the God
Okay.
business.
Fantastic.
So yes, and not only him, I understand that other students did very well as well. So I'm extending my congratulations to all of them. But more importantly to Jamal, because I think he really did a good job. He was like tossing 2 balls, the one with football and the one with his academics, and he failed in neither. So I think he deserves some credit.
Fantastic.
And for everyone to go behind him or stand with him and wish him very well in his future years.
Thank you so
again.
very much, and I extend congratulations to you, Jamal, and to your parents. Heartiest congratulations to you as well.
Thank you so very much.
All right, and you have a good night. Nice to hear you.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Do we have that other call online? Good evening, you're live and on the mark. Hello.
This is Dr. Rouse.
Dr. Rouse, good evening to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir.
Yes, I've been expecting your call. And by the way, this is not the regular host, the Honorable Mark Brantley. This is the Honorable Eric Evelyn, his deputy. And so I'm hosting tonight. And so I'll be the one who you'll be interacting with for this evening. We have on the line Dr. Charlie Rouse, and he's president and CEO of West Georgia Cardiology, and also the co-founder of the Rouse Foundation. And Dr. Rouse has been partnering with us here in Nevis, been partnering with the Nevis Island Administration for a number of years on heart health. I know he has come to the island of Nevis. He has conducted several clinics in the past. And Dr. Rouse, it's good to have you online.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, first of all, Dr. Ross, maybe you can just remind us, for those who may be hearing you for the first time, those who are hearing about the foundation for the first time, tell us a bit about yourself, tell us a little bit about the Rouse Foundation and what you normally do when you come to Nevis.
Sure. My name is Charlie Rouse. I'm an adult cardiologist. I'm the co-founder of the Rouse Foundation, and the Rouse Foundation gives us the opportunity to provide health care to individuals in various countries and various areas in the United States as well. And so over the last several years or so, we've had the opportunity to come to Nevis. Our Nevis connection, as you may know, is Miss Ursula Phillips,
yes,
who is Nevisian.
Yes.
And that connection gave us the opportunity to come into Nevis to conduct a number of health clinics. First of all, we were on a fact-finding mission, so to speak, and what we did was assess the population for hypertension and diabetes in various parishes. We found roughly about 30% of the men had high blood pressure in every parish that we were at.
In Nevis?
And about 40% of, yes, in Nevis. That's correct.
30%? That's high.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it is a high number. That's exactly right. We were a little bit astounded about that. And the same percentage of women that we found in your country had evidence of diabetes. And so we, after that, decided that we would do a number of educational seminars where we had held various talks and interactions with various communities and parishes. And then one of the things that we did was try to introduce what we call an intervention through our Rouse Foundation Mini Chef Academy, in which we educated kids in the community about heart health and the connection between good heart health and good nutrition and good exercise. And then, of course, in conjunction with the health ministry there and a number of other local individuals, including parents, we would have some hands-on demonstration of healthy cooking, a smoothie or some sort of healthy snack for children. And then they graduate from the Rouse Foundation Mini Chef Academy with a hat and apron.
Yes.
Gives them the opportunity to, go back home and teach mom and dad.
Fantastic. Now, and so how long have you been coming to Nevis, Dr. Rouse?
I'd say about 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
And, save the pandemic, we had come every year prior to that for a number of years.
Mm-hmm. And you gave some pretty alarming figures there. The statistics sounds not sounding very good for the island of Nevis. 30% of men with high blood pressure, 30% of women with diabetes. Since you would have done that study, have you done any follow-up in any of your follow-up visits to see whether or not the numbers are trending downwards, whether they are the same, whether they are trending upwards?
Well, we had anticipated doing that in 2020, at which time the pandemic hit, and so we were put on pause, so to speak. But that is our plan, to come back and reassess the population, to try to, along with the health ministry, make a determination of whether or not any of the things that we've done have had any impact, and to provide some local care for individuals that in a clinic formation that we had on the island itself.
Okay.
So we anticipate doing that in the future, but no, we haven't had the opportunity just yet.
Okay, great. Now, Dr. Rouse, I understand you want to talk about a few subject areas in terms of heart health, and one of the things you want to discuss tonight is something called sudden cardiac arrest. Do you care to tell us what is sudden cardiac arrest? Who may be predisposed to it, and that kind of stuff? Hello.
Generally, when someone collapses suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
And the heart goes into a bad rhythm where some people call it a heart seizure, where the heart's not pumping at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a consequence of that, an individual would pass out. And there are a number of causes of this. We divide these things generally into those people that are athletes in the general population. And what's been so interesting in the United States lately is that we've had a couple of high-profile cases of individuals having sudden cardiac arrest in our community. So if you look at the general population in the United States, that is about 350,000 individuals die from sudden cardiac death, and about 90% of those individuals, about 350,000 people have sudden cardiac death, and about 90% of those people die. So 90% of the cases is pretty fatal, and most of these incidents occur at home. Somewhere about 2/3 of them occur at home, and 1/3 may occur in a workplace, and that kind of thing. So when we talk about sudden cardiac death, I think it's really important to understand the difference between a heart attack and sudden cardiac death. So a heart attack is when a piece of plaque inside the artery breaks off and forms a clot and stops the blood flow to a particular region of the heart, and the heart muscle dies. Now, a heart attack can lead to cardiac arrest or sudden cardiac death. But there are other causes as well. As I mentioned before, in the United States recently, there have been a number of causes and concerns centered around high-profile athletes, one of which got hit in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's suspicious that he may have had sudden cardiac death related to something called commotio cordis, where you get hit at the right time of the heart cycle, and it causes your heart to go in this heart seizure that I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are a number of other causes that people can have that can lead to sudden cardiac death as well.
So you're saying there's an absolute difference between cardiac arrest and heart attack, because I'm sure everybody would associate the word cardiac with heart, and when you hear cardiac arrest, people may think it's a heart attack or it's maybe the same thing, but you're saying there's a difference between the cardiac arrest and the heart attack.
That's correct, and it's important to know that a heart attack can lead to sudden cardiac death, but weakness of the heart muscle, something called a cardiomyopathy, congestive heart failure. A lot of these athletes have some congenital anomalies or congenital abnormalities that can lead to sudden cardiac death. Drugs can lead to sudden cardiac death, and a number of other causes as well. So it's just really important to understand that, because in a heart attack situation, like I said, when a piece of plaque breaks off and forms a clot,
mm-hmm.
if you don't get blood flow restored to that particular region of the heart, then the heart muscle will die as a consequence of that, or you're at risk of developing sudden cardiac death under those circumstances, which is a bad rhythm disturbance of the heart itself. That's what it refers to. It refers to a term called ventricular fibrillation or ventricular tachycardia. You can imagine that the heart's just quivering. It's not squeezing and beating like it normally does
mm-hmm.
in a situation of a sudden cardiac death.
Now, Dr. Rouse, you spoke about the sudden cardiac arrest and someone passing out. And of course, someone passing out could mean many different things. Those of us who are not in the medical field, if someone just passes out, we would not know. Is there a difference? How could you tell for someone who is not a medical person and who is close to someone who passes out? Is there something you can tell whether or not it's a cardiac arrest or it's something else that has led to that pass out? Yeah,
typically speaking, in a sudden cardiac arrest situation, if a person goes down, suddenly collapse, if you check their pulse
mm-hmm.
or listen to their heart, and don't hear any heart tones, then that is indicative of potentially a sudden cardiac arrest or sudden cardiac death. And in situations where you might have access to an AED, that automatic external defibrillator, that thing that shocks you back into a normal rhythm.
Yes.
In situations where you may have access to that, if you place those pads on an individual who has collapsed in front of you, if you have access to that,
yes.
If you place those pads on an individual in front of you, then that machine itself will read and tell you whether or not that person is in cardiac arrest, a sudden cardiac death, and then deliver a shock. In situations where you may not have access to an AED, if you check for pulse and don't feel one, then you have to begin CPR immediately because, again, that person could be and likely is in sudden cardiac arrest related to one of those rhythm disturbances that I just talked about.
Okay, and of course, when I looked at the information when I saw AED, I had to go to Google because I didn't know what it meant. But then I said automated external defibrillator, and then of course CPR. CPR is a common term, but I'm sure many of us doesn't even know what CPR means. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Now, you spoke about the AED. How common is this piece of machinery?
Well, interestingly enough, it's becoming more common in public places, especially here in the United States. Several years ago, our foundation, several years ago, probably maybe about 15, 20 years ago, there was a 7-year-old boy who was playing baseball with his brother, and the brother, 16-year-old brother, threw the baseball, hit him in the chest, and all of a sudden this kid collapsed and died as a consequence of something called commotion quarter, so this heart seizure that I was telling you about. And so our foundation about 15, 20 years ago decided that we needed to do something about that. And what we decided to do in our own community is start a campaign to put AEDs in public spaces. That means in the schools.
Yes.
That means in the churches. That means in the businesses. And then train individuals in those respective spaces to be able to operate an AED so that it can make a difference between life and death. And I can't tell you how many times that's occurred across the United States where individuals have been saved by these AEDs. And I suspect that that 90% that I was telling you about that die as a consequence of sudden cardiac death in the United States, if we had more individuals that had CPR certification, if we had more individuals that had an understanding of how to work an AED and had AEDs in various public spaces, I think those numbers will go down no matter where you are, whether or not you're in Nevis, the United States, or wherever the case may be. I think those numbers can go down tremendously. So I strongly encourage public places, churches, and etc., to consider buying one of these AEDs.
And in terms of CPR, I know the AED might be down the road, but in terms of the CPR, though, how common it is for all medical personnel to be trained in CPR? I assume that all doctors and nurses and EMTs are trained in CPR.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I mean, most of us, if not all of us, should have some what we call basic CPR training. And then some of us have what we call advanced CPR training as well, where we use medications and things of that sort inside the hospital setting or on an ambulance to enhance the likelihood of a person surviving. But my mindset is such that I think that all households, every household, particularly Nevisians, every household should have at least one person in that house that knows how to perform CPR. It can make a difference between life and death.
Yes.
And I think that as the public become more aware of how to accurately perform this, then I think that, again, that 90% of the people that die outside of the hospital who have sudden cardiac death, and that number may go down some. If we had more individuals who understood how to perform CPR. If we'd had more individuals in the homes, in the churches, in the businesses, and et cetera, how to perform CPR.
Now, Dr. Rouse, you spoke about something a while ago where someone would have gotten a blow to the chest. Sorry. Is it common that if you get a blow to the chest, it could cause arrest, cardiac arrest?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have to happen for that to happen. Meaning that if, first of all, in our country, it's football, and what we call football, you guys call soccer. So the two of the highest, or two of the sports that have the highest incidence of this commotion cordis, it's called, when you get hit in the chest, is football and soccer, hockey, things that have can engage in blunt trauma to the chest itself. But you have to hit the heart at the right time of what they call a cardiac cycle. Each one of the heartbeats are preceded by electrical activities. And that electrical activity, there are certain times that electrical activity is extremely vulnerable. And if that ball hits you, that soccer ball, that football, hockey puck, or whatever the case may, hit you in that right time of that cardiac cycle, you can go into sudden cardiac death, or so-called commotio cordis, which is, again, a heart seizure, if you will, where your heart's just merely quivering and not pumping like it normally should. And it's called ventricular fibrillation and ventricular tachycardia. Those are the two most common causes of sudden cardiac death.
Okay. Now, Dr. Rouse, I know that we recently came out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the COVID-19 vaccine was blamed for a lot of things. Can the COVID-19 vaccine, can it cause sudden cardiac arrest?
Well, interestingly enough, I've not read any literature where that is the case. I would say that, if you are allergic to some of the ingredients that are inside of a vaccine, then under those circumstances, theoretically, it could occur. But to link the vaccine itself directly to cardiac arrest, I have not read any literature that supports that theory, or that hypothesis, actually. I would say, though, that a number of people that get COVID itself, the infection itself, are at risk of developing something called a myocarditis and cardiomyopathy, which are weakness of the heart muscle itself. And those things within themselves can lead to sudden cardiac death or cardiac arrest related to those rhythm problems that people commonly have. Over the last 2 to 3 years, it's been amazing to me the number of individuals that I've seen who've had COVID and who have developed weakness of the heart muscle that I suspect is related directly to COVID. And many of them, when that heart muscle is weakened, and when I say heart muscle is weakened, a normal heart should squeeze out about 65 to 70% of the blood every time it beats. So when that heart muscle gets 35% or less, that's considered to be severe. Those people are at high risk of having sudden cardiac death, high risk of having these this so-called ventricular fibrillation and ventricular tachycardia because of the weakness of the heart muscle itself. So the incidence of sudden cardiac death is higher in those individuals who have the infection from COVID itself, much higher in that kind of a scenario than it would be from what I've read from the vaccine itself.
Okay, Dr. Rouse, there's a term, and I'm sure you probably know the term offhand. The term is eluding me right now. Sometimes people have like irregular heartbeats, or like the heart is fluttering, palpitations. When persons have palpitations, is that a sign of a heart problem, a heart issue?
It could be. And here's what I tell people at the onset when I come in contact with folks that I'm giving a talk or something to that effect. And that is, if you are having any kind of symptom that is unusual, right, get it checked out. It may be something minor, but it could be something that could lead to something more severe. So palpitations is just a very large, very general term that refers to irregularity of the heart itself. So in other words, you can have an extra beat that can cause you to have palpitations. You can have a rhythm disturbance from the top part of your heart, so-called supraventricular tachycardia, that can cause you to have palpitations. You can have an irregular heartbeat that comes from the bottom chamber of the heart, which is more dangerous, particularly if they happen in succession or multiple times over. And particularly if you have any symptoms associated with those palpitations, you've got to get them checked out. Symptoms like chest pain, symptoms like shortness of breath, symptoms like fainting, symptoms like a sudden drop or sudden change in your energy level. Any of those kind of, or dizziness, any of those kinds of things associated with an irregular heartbeat, or so-called palpitations, as you said, may be indicative of something more severe, and you have to get those things checked out. You never know. It may be something real minor, and your doctor can recommend some basic things that you need to do, like alleviating caffeine out of your diet, alleviating alcohol out of your diet, alleviating stress out of your life, and those kind of things. What I see here in the United States quite often when people complain of palpitations, particularly with symptoms associated with it, is something called atrial fibrillation or atrial flutter. That's the irregular heartbeat that's real erratic, and it places you at risk of having strokes. And it's common in individuals that have high blood pressure, over the age of 65, people that have other kinds of heart conditions, and people that have these viral illnesses like COVID are at higher risk of developing that kind of a problem. So palpitations is really a general term, but if you have them, get it checked out. Your doctor can do so-called an EKG that can help you detect some abnormalities.
Yes.
Or he or she may put a monitor on you to determine if you're having those kinds of irregular beats or palpitations in certain environment.
Yes.
And that can help you decide exactly what to do and what it is.
Fantastic. Dr. Rose, what can people do to just have good heart health?
Well, you know, I recommend at the very basics, everybody should get a checkup, right?
How often?
You know, I'd say at least once a year, because my mindset, early detection, if you can early detect something that's minor, you can prevent yourself from developing significant problems. I told you earlier that about 30% of the people that we tested in the various parishes in your community had diabetes, right? And so if you have diabetes and do not get it checked, diabetes is one of those systemic illnesses, right? You don't get treatment for it. It can lead to a lot of bad problems. Things like heart attacks, things like strokes, things like loss of limb, where you have you develop such bad infection or poor circulation to your legs or sometimes to your arms that you have to get those things removed. And so I always encourage people to get a checkup and find out if you got something significant going on that may cause you problems down the road. The same is true for high blood pressure, right? If a lot of people are walking around with significantly elevated blood pressure and have no knowledge of that. Then when they develop some bad symptoms or bad issues, that's when we find that, oh, they've had high blood pressure. But if you go to a doctor early on or go to your clinic early on and get a checkup, you may be able to find out whether or not you have high blood pressure, diabetes, or cholesterol issues, any of those things that can lead to bad. I tell people often, my patients, that you have to exercise, right? But exercise on the authority and the recommendations of your physician or your clinical practitioner. That means that you get their approval before you start to engage in some sort of exercise program.
Yes.
But the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association, two of the big entities here in the United States, recommend that you walk, bike, or do some sort of cardiovascular exercise 30 minutes a day, at least 4 days a week. 5 days a week. That's 150 minutes of cardiovascular type exercise. You have to eat a balanced meal. You should avoid eating a lot of fatty foods, a lot of sugary foods. You should avoid consuming too much alcohol. You should avoid combining alcohol with certain types of products, like energy drinks. Those things have a tremendous amount of caffeine in them, and that, along with the alcohol, don't mix too well together, and it can put you at risk of having bad problems. I can't tell you over the years how many number of people I've seen that have come into the hospital who drank an excessive amount of alcohol, drank alcohol, or who had drank simply an energy drink or combination of those things, two things together.
So you're saying, Dr. Ross, not cutting you off, you're saying that the combination of alcohol and energy drinks is not good?
I'm saying that's not good, but sometimes there's a recent study that came out that showed that any amount of alcohol can raise your blood pressure. And so I tell patients, if you have any of those kind of problems, avoid them. But if you're a woman, you probably shouldn't consume more than 1 drink a day. If you're a man, certainly not more than 2 drinks a day. And I would, at all costs, stay away from energy drinks. You never know when those energy drinks can stimulate your heart bad enough to put you into one of those bad rhythm problems that I just talked about earlier.
Wow.
But yes, you should definitely avoid that combination of energy drinks and alcohol.
Well, I'm happy that you said that, because I've seen so many persons combining the energy drinks and the alcohol, and they do it. Some people do it very often. So I'm hoping that folks are listening. You're giving some excellent advice this evening, and we should all be taking care of our health. And of course, the heart is very, very important to the body. And so, Dr. Rouse, any other information you wanna leave with the listening and viewing public this evening? Of course, we are live on the radio, we're live on Facebook as well. So, anything else you would want to give us in terms of heart health?
Yeah, so, I would say, as I said earlier, making sure that you eat a good balanced meal, vegetables, fruit, meat, avoid those processed foods, and avoid consuming so much food. It's interesting. I know. It's interesting that when we eat, sometimes we eat an excessive amount of rice, or excessive amount of breadfruit, or excessive amount of potatoes, and those kind of things. The amount of servings, believe it or not, should roughly about the palm of your hand. So your meat should fit in the palm of your hand. Your vegetables should fit in the palm of your hand. Your rice should fit in the palm of your hand. And if you're exceeding that, then you're pushing yourself at developing obesity. And obesity puts you at higher risk of developing high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol issues, and those things lead to those bad cardiovascular outcomes that can happen so often. Listen, I highly recommend that on the island of Nevis and St. Kitts, that every household, you guys initiate a campaign where every household have at least one individual that is CPR certified. And any person that is in a space that has an AED, an automatic external defibrillator, that thing that shocks you back into a normal rhythm and can save your life, if you're in that atmosphere and you have one at your company, your church, or your home, or whatever the case may be, you need to become familiar with it and how to use it. It's not enough to have that equipment available, right, if you don't know how to use it. So it's super important in that regard. I think that understanding how to perform CPR properly, nowadays, we used to tell people to give so many breaths, you breathe in the mouth of the individual that has collapsed, and then do chest compressions where you're pressing on the chest. But nowadays, the data suggests that you should just do chest compression. You should press between the chest on the lower part of the sternum. If somebody collapses in front of you and they don't have a pulse and you're trying to revive them, then you should press on their chest about 100 times per minute, about 2 inches every time you're pressing. So you're pressing pretty hard and pretty fast. That may be the difference between life and death in that particular individual. And finally this, if you smoke, stop, right? It's important to do that. If you have medications that your physician gives you and it's not working for you, or you're having side effects, talk to your physicians. We have a lot of different medicines on the market that we can use nowadays, all of which have side effects. for some of them which have less side effects, and they maybe have less side effects than you. But you got to take your medications as prescribed in an effort to protect yourself from developing some of those bad problems. And finally to this, I think it's incredibly important that we figure out how to reduce stress in our lives.
Oh,
right?
definitely.
Whether or not that is, meditating, whether or not that is walking, whether or not that is having someone to talk to, listen to music, listen to the great island music that I hear every time I come, whether or not it's enjoying your beautiful ocean, whatever the case may be, going to church, whatever that thing is that helps you to de-stress, you got to incorporate that. You got to make sure that's a part of your life, a part of your being, a part of your everyday structure, so that you can potentially protect yourself from having one of those bad problems like sudden cardiac death and other issues that can happen. I'll say this, and this recently happened in our community. There was a family at the courthouse, and they were having a dispute over some property, right? And one of the people in that family member became so upset that it tore a hole in the major artery in her heart, and subsequently she died. So the point is that stress of any kind can lead to bad outcomes, can lead to blood pressure issues, can lead to rhythm disturbances of the heart. One of the most common things that I see when people come to see me asking me about an evaluation for palpitations is that they're under some sort of stress. And when we delve into their history and figure out what's going on, we can then come up with strategies of alleviating those things. But I think if you have a good stress management mindset and program incorporated into your everyday life, whatever that might be, I think you can live a good quality life. But in addition to that, avoid some of those diseases that can cause you serious problems down the road.
Wow. Dr. Rouse, that's some excellent advice, excellent recommendations and suggestions that we absolutely cannot pay for. And so I want to thank you so very much. I hope persons are taking the advice that stress is not good. You need to keep stress out of your life, and most of us stress over every little simple thing that we should not be stressing over. And so I hope, Dr. Rouse, I hope that persons are listening and they would heed the advice that you would have given tonight. And as I said, I want to thank you so much for calling in and talking about heart health and cardiac arrest and heart attack. And it was so much information in such a short space of time. And I hope, Dr. Rouse, we'll be seeing you again soon here on the island of Nevis.
Absolutely. We anticipated coming this year, but we'll be there for sure next year.
Absolutely fabulous. We're looking forward to seeing you, and we're looking forward to the service, and we're looking forward to the continued partnership. We want to thank you from the Nevis Island Administration for all of what you would have done for the island of Nevis, for your partnership, your collaboration, and we look forward to your continued collaboration. So thank you very much for calling. We wish you and your foundation all the very best until we see you next year.
Indeed, and if I may, I certainly want to thank your Premier Brantley for giving me this opportunity, and you yourself, sir, for giving me the opportunity to share this information with Nevisians. I feel like we're part of the family there now, and so the information that we provide helps us as well as it helps you all. And so we're looking forward to coming back fairly soon. And again, I thank also Ms. Ursula Phillips, who's our foundation director, but also her brother was my patient here in the States, and she gave me the Nevisian connection.
Fabulous.
I'm appreciative of those things.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a good night, and we see you next year.
Indeed, sir. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. That was Dr. Charlie Rouse calling in from Georgia. I assume he's calling in from Georgia because I know he's there. He normally works in Georgia, and he's the co-founder of the Rouse Foundation, and he's the president and CEO of West Georgia Cardiology. And he called in to give us some very pertinent and important information regarding heart and heart health. And I am joined by another guest, but before I get to that guest, guest, I still didn't complete my little information I was given about the voucher program that we spoke about and that caller calling about, and so I'm just going to just finish that little information that I was giving. Why is it important? That is the voucher program. We believe that every child deserves a safe and nurturing environment to learn and grow. With this program, we aim to reduce the burden on parents, and of course the caller spoke about mental issues. Of course, mentally she'd be in a better place. So the program aims to reduce the burden on parents and ensure that children receive the best care possible. How can you help? Spread the word if you know someone who could benefit from the program. Together we can make a real difference in the lives of families in our community. All right, and so that was the daycare program that will be launched tomorrow. It will be launched tomorrow at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, and of course from 5 o'clock, and so persons will be able to benefit. Just a little bit more information I have here. It's going to be up to $300 EC monthly, and the child must be a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis between the ages of 0 and 3. Single parent income 0 to 2,000, dual parent income 0 to 3,000, and the maximum is 2 children per household. So one household can only 2 children can benefit. So if you have 3 or 4 children, all would not be able to benefit. You'll be able to benefit only 2 children per household, and the registration opens tomorrow, September the 7th, and you can contact the Gender Affairs Department. They are on Government Road in the GMBC building, 469-552 extension 6750. Okay, and so that's the action plan for the single mothers and persons who are very much in need, the daycare voucher assistance program to be launched tomorrow. All right. Well, we've said a mouthful so far this evening, and as I said, I am being joined here by another guest. In the meantime, the lines are open in case you want to call in at any time and interrupt. Don't be afraid to do so. 869-469-1616 or 1700. I have a guest who is no stranger to the studios of the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, and I am going to ask the guest to introduce himself.
Good evening to the listening audience, viewing audience. I am Brian Dyer, the director at the Nevis Disaster Management Department. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dyer. And of course, I would have spoken to Mr. Dyer today, and he's a model civil servant, always ready to assist, always ready to help. And you know, I told him, well, maybe you can call in tonight. Let us talk a little bit about the disturbance that is out there, because people are a bit concerned. Of course, it sounds like it's going to go north of us, which we are happy for, but we are in the heart of the hurricane season. We are in September, and I said, Mr. Dyer, maybe you can call in, we can have a little chat. And he said, no, I can come. I said, well, thank you very much. So, Mr. Dyer, thank you very much for consenting to be here tonight. Let us talk a little bit about the disturbance out there. Is it a hurricane yet?
Yes, it is.
Tell us a little bit more about Hurricane Lee then.
All right. At 5 p.m. this afternoon, the National Hurricane Center issued its update, and the position for Hurricane Lee at that time, location 14.9 degrees north or 46.4 degrees west, or about 1,130 miles to the southeast of the northern Leeward Islands. Maximum sustained winds are now 75 miles an hour, and present movement is west-northwest or 295 degrees at 14 miles per hour. The speed has reduced some, so it shows sign of intensifying. The minimum central pressure has also dropped. Is now 991 degrees millibars or 991 millibars or 29.27 inches. So the forecast is showing that the Hurricane Lee is ramping up and is getting larger and
more powerful
as well,
and more dangerous.
The good thing about it is that it's tracking to the north of the islands, and we can expect some impact with regards to especially the sea surface conditions that is expected to be rough, and we can expect some rip currents and high seas come Friday. Okay. Into Saturday.
Based on the forecast track, though, because I know they have been, and people have been following. There are several forecast models, and most of them seems to be taking it away from the island, which we are thankful for. because I don't think we can stand a Hurricane Lee at this time. Based on the forecast track, apart from the sea conditions, can we expect any other conditions like high winds, rainfall, in terms of where it might be passing, in terms of its distance away from us? I'm assuming that it will pass a safe distance away from us. But can we expect any like rainfall, any high winds?
On the current track, the hurricane is expected to produce some, probably, it depends on the size of it at this time, at the time when it passes on Saturday. We could see some tropical storm force winds, probably between 30 and 40 miles an hour, especially if we have some rain showers. We can see up to 40 miles an hour wind in that region. We shouldn't get too much more than that, as once it,
and we may not get that either. We don't get that either.
Yeah, once it maintains that track, and it depends on the size of it, because currently it's a very small storm.
Okay.
The hurricane force winds extend only 15 miles.
Okay.
But and the tropical storm force winds extend out 90 miles from the center. However, as it intensifies and slows down and get closer to us, it's expected that the hurricane force wind extend further out from the center. So the forecasters are saying it can get up to category 5 by Saturday, maybe before. So we can expect it, on this forecast track, it should pass safely at around 250, 230 miles from us to the north.
That sounds good.
So that's good news for us.
Excellent news.
And we are also would be on the weaker side of the storm. So again, we may not anticipate too many rain showers, but as it intensifies and get bigger in size, the rain bands may circulate and we may get some showers, especially after it passes the islands.
Okay.
Right. So probably Sunday, Monday, we may get more rainfall than Friday and Saturday when it actually passes the islands.
Okay. Now, Mr. Dyer, you just made a point there. You spoke about the rapid intensification, and we've seen a lot of that in many of the storms, not only this season but of late, where you see a storm which is a category 1 today, and by tomorrow it's category 3. By the next day it's category 5. And ever since this past weekend, when I heard them talking about this potential hurricane, they were saying that there will be rapid intensification. I think it was last week or the week before when Idalia, that's the name of the storm, it was like category 1 today, and by the next day it was category 3. What is causing this rapid intensification of these storms?
We have an unusual phenomenon this year. The El Nino is in place. However, both the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean are extremely warm. The average temperature for hurricane formation is 26 degrees Celsius, or 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Some of the ocean temperatures recorded are up to 30 and 31 degrees Celsius. So that's really hot.
Very hot.
So, and again, the wind shear that we were depending on from the Pacific to come over and interrupt the storm formation, that is subsiding as well as we go deeper into the hurricane season. So that is one of the reasons why, or two of the reasons why the Hurricane Center had to increase the forecast from 14 to, first it was 12 to 14 named storms. Now it's up to 21 named storms. So
we have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark. Caller, could you call back? Yes, get back to you, Mr. Dyer.
Yes, so the forecast calls for up to 15 to 16 named storms.
Yes.
Of which 8 could be hurricanes and up to 4 major hurricanes. So we have to be prepared because we already 11 named storms.
I was just about to ask you, where are we in terms of the storms, the names? Where are we right now?
We are down to Lee, and we're looking at also the tropical wave behind Lee that is developing, but that one would remain over ocean, so that's a good sign.
Okay.
But it should also develop into some significance.
Now, every year we have these predictions. How accurate are normally these predictions in terms of the number of storms, the intensity of the storms, the number of major hurricanes, and the number of tropical waves? How close they normally get?
I think they're fairly accurate because the Met services have started collecting data from 1860. So they have a pretty good picture with the historical data to fall back on in making their forecasts. And then we have the warming of the ocean and climate change and the warming of the entire earth, because of our actions, so the storms are intensifying. And we have to find a way to reduce the warming of the earth in general. Otherwise, we would be in problems going forward.
Deep trouble.
Yes.
You mentioned something a while ago, a term. You think it was El Nino?
El Nino, yes.
Yes, I've heard this term. I'm sure a lot of other persons would have heard the term El Nino, El Nina, La Nina. We'll get to that, but we have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Good night, good night.
Good night. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. This is Mendeley Williams calling.
Yes.
I'm calling to address Africa Wilkins.
Yes. How are you doing? Yes.
She said earlier that it was her idea, whatever she said, but I'm not calling to let the public know it wasn't her idea. So she needs to done with this lying nonsense.
Oh Lord have mercy.
It was not her idea. She needs to tell the truth.
Well, according to the Premier Mendeley, it was her idea. He said he was up in Hamilton, and
it was her idea to talk about it, but definitely it was not her idea, and she knows better. So why should she call in and say it was her idea, making the public feel like it's her idea? She needs to down with that lying nonsense.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, go to church and get you crazy.
Thank you very much for calling, Mendeley. And so we will get back to the discussion we're having here now about the hurricanes. And we were talking about the El Nino, La Nina, and so on. Explain what these terms mean.
Okay. The El Nino, the Southern Oscillation, it occurs every 2 to 4 years in the Eastern Pacific. The El Nino is the extremely warming of the Eastern Pacific waters. The La Nina is the reverse, the extremely cooling of the Eastern Pacific waters. So it affects weather patterns globally. So when we have El Nino, we should have, I put it should in inverted commas, less hurricanes because of the warm ocean temperatures in the Pacific would produce what we call wind shear with the flow of the air in the opposite direction, and it would interact with the formation of the storms on the Atlantic side of it, and it would tend to blow the tops off of the thunderstorms, or thunderstorm clouds, and would minimize the formation of hurricanes. So during a El Nino year, we should have less hurricanes, but because we see now the Pacific and the Atlantic are both showing identical temperatures, it's difficult to say the El Nino will have a significant impact on the hurricane season this year. However, the other areas of the world, some countries will be seeing a lot of activity with regards to flooding. Some areas will experience extreme drought. So, next year when the El Nino is in full effect, you will see a lot more report of damages for some of these countries, especially in the Eastern Asia.
And it seems to just be getting worse because as you spoke about the El Nino and the La Nina and so on, and the warming of the ocean and that sort of thing, because I've heard persons saying that yes, they do realize a significant change in the temperature of the ocean when they go to the beach. Of course we know that we are getting some sweltering heat, but we will break as we get a call. We have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Hello, good night.
Good night. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. I'm here listening in.
Yes.
What happened to us right down here in the Caribbean? We had our thing to bring to bring rain. We had our own thing, but what happened? I don't know what happened in the outer world. The Western Hemisphere, like they must get jealous or whatever. and then they spoil our country. Do you know St. Kitts? I don't know for Nevis, but St. Kitts had a lot of ponds. Those ponds are to cool, I understand, to cool the volcano, Venus, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened? We just follow to the outer world people them. I feel like there was more knowledgeable than us and we spoil it.
Mm-hmm.
Upon thinking it. I remember the child coming up in the 60s there. Every minute you get rain. Right, sometimes rain fall way through. And I don't know what it is, these people just come down here to us. I don't know because they want the sugar cane to ripe up more faster. And they could have get more money out of us from this plantation story. And they kill us. Kill the pond what we had was to make rain. You go over forgive me. A big pond there, die out. You go with the ponds, they don't talk about over the ponds upon ponds. The last one will die out. The two last one I must say, one in Connery. The former Prime Minister over there before Mr. Timothy, he kill out that and sold it, build up this kind of hotel and it and all, and they don't know the danger. The whole of down there is so full of ponds. They were there for a reason. It's so to make it so long story short, it's just man, really kill man as the man up in Trinidad, so the songwriter. This man is just going to be harmful to man because look how we hot.
Oh, yes.
Hot. We know it used to be so hot.
Because of our actions.
Huh?
It is because of our actions.
Yeah, we kill out all them things what to bring the next good thing. All never die out, We are the one again where we have over there by the harbour there, what was the name again? Over there.
Port Zante?
No, way over.
Christoph Harbour?
Over Crystal Harbour. The second year to the Mr. Thing again, sold it out. They're going to use it now. That was the last one. Every minute you used to look up and forget. Over there, you see rain making up over there in the east there. When you want to feel cool, now your house hot there. You're in the house and you're in front of the door outside and you're landing and the heat are coming out the house. It's saying funny. So I hope we end up like Malaysia also, up in Hawaii with this place just catch up for you like that. Yeah, I study it up, so they say, look at that. The mountain again, the same there, this big pond. They take the pond, poison it out. All because hemisphere, the Western comments about do this, so that they want the air conditioned thing sell. And that's what they do to us, this small country. Anguilla again had a big pond down there. I don't know if you see them that were filling it in a time down Sandyburn. I don't know if they're filling all now. Because good well I haven't been there since in the 80s. So yeah man, if we could have to have this problem, I asked your mom or your grandmother. We used to get rain throughout the year.
I know. I'm not that young. We used to get a lot of rain, yes.
Pull up this pan of harm to us. The volcano going to answer us back on.
Well, let us continue to pray and do what we can here in St. Kitts and Nevis. A lot of the problems we are having in terms of the heat and the climate change these are problems that are caused by the industrialized nations. But let us continue to hope and pray.
Industrialization, Mr. Evelyn. Industrialization, don't see the big sugar factory closed down. And other people had their ponds, an industrial thing up in ponds they gone to, up in ponds industrial side they gone. It's just man kill a man.
Yes.
That's what happened.
We are responsible.
Right now you're hot.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for calling. Mr. Dyer, everybody's bawling for the heat. I have to say, use the Nevis lingo. Everybody bawling for the heat. And it's like it's getting hotter. It's not normal. This heat that we are experiencing is not normal at all. What is going on with this heat?
The problem with the heat is that the whole world is crying out because the sun rays coming in is being trapped by the greenhouse gases, and it is not being released as once upon a time. There's more carbon and methane in the atmosphere, so with that, those tend to trap the heat. So the earth is not breathing as it used to. So the entire world is feeling the effects.
We have another caller online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark. Hello. All right, we lost that caller. Yes, we were talking about the heat, Mr. Dyer, and what is possibly causing this heat wave that we experience. We have the caller back. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Good evening.
Good evening.
BBC report. I want to debunk the theory that mankind is not man. Third world people is responsible for what's going on. BBC report. For the first 30 years of nuclear science, all the nuclear waste was dumped in the sea. It didn't have any effect. That's question number one. Question number two, BBC report, Operation in Vietnam, Operation Popeye, showed that they were manipulating the weather to mess up the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The Chinese harvesting 10% of the water from the sky. Do we think that all of these things that they're doing don't have an effect on the weather? The weather is just coming back because of the manipulation that mankind, the science of the larger community is using, and it's having devastating effect throughout the world. It's not me and the burning the cry and the people about the third world people. It is the science.
But it goes back to what I was saying, that it is mankind still that is whatever, because you just backed up what I was saying, that we are the ones who are causing it. Mankind.
Not we.
I meant mankind in general.
Operation Popeye is not nothing for the Caribbean. It was the US using that in Vietnam. The Chinese harvesting 10% of the water is Chinese. It has nothing to do with third world people.
But when I said we, I didn't mean we. I was just talking generally. I was talking about caused by mankind.
Blame where it's supposed to go. Stop generalize. It is wrong. Put the blame where it's supposed to go. Sit to play.
All right, sir.
Give thanks.
Thank you for calling. So yes, Mr. Dyer, coming back to this heat, that because I mean almost every day when I listen to the news, it's saying that this year seems to be one of the hottest on record.
This year is the hottest on record.
Right.
And the July was the hottest on record since temperatures started being collected. So we are approaching. I know the G8 and the entire world is trying to save us by cutting our carbon emissions so we don't get the 1.5 degrees by 2030.
What is this forecast saying about this heat though? We are hearing it might continue for the next couple of months.
Yes, the Met Services and the Caribbean Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology have indicated that based on their information and analysis, we should see the heat continue for another 3 months.
So we are almost talking going into December.
Into December, yes. So I know we are accustomed of getting cold fronts, and the temperature would drop a bit. But based on their prediction, we may see a warm winter, which is not good because persons are looking for the relief.
I know. As a matter of fact, only this afternoon I was talking to someone. He said, "Lord, I'm hoping and praying for those chilly nights to come soon." I guess everybody is waiting for those chilly periods to come back, and I mean there doesn't seem to be any end in sight to this heat that we are experiencing. And of course with the heat as well, we're also realizing over the years that our dry seasons are getting longer as well and be extended. But what is the cause for that as well?
Climate is changing, and there's a study that was done by the International Panel for Climate Change and the IPCC, and they are predicting that we would see less rainfall as we approach 2050. So it is important for persons now to start thinking of alternate water sources. It's important to get a cistern or a water tank and collect whenever rainfall is, collect as much as possible and manage how we utilize the public service. Because we are in for a while ride. once the earth continues to be warming.
And as I said, I mean, and you know, as you spoke about the larger countries, they are saying they're going to do, they always make promises.
Yeah.
You know, I was fortunate to attend one COP meeting when I was the Federal Minister of Environment, and promises were made, but the promises are never kept. And you know, they can never come to a consensus by the time the meeting is over. And so it's just like a cycle going round and round. We make the promises, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and nothing is done. And then mankind just continues to suffer.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is greed, and everything is done by finance. So if they are being propped up by the business community in the actions, then it will be difficult to curb the, you know, on the one side, on one hand you're the regulator, on the other side you're the operator.
Yes.
Government can't handle both at the same time.
We have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Oh, good night, the Honorable Eric.
How are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm not too bad.
Good.
I am here listening to the program and it's so interesting.
Yes.
And good night to Mr. Dyer. Dyer?
Yeah, good night, sir.
Yeah, good night to Mr. Dyer. Now, we're in a small country, and we know what cause all these things with climate change and everything. And just when you are saying there, with the carbon dioxide and all these things, pollution and all these things coming in the water, right? From them different countries who make all those vehicles and all these things. And we in a small country down here, before we become negative and talk about whatever, let me pray to God. The only thing we can do, pray.
I agree with you. Prayer is
Pray.
needed.
That's the only thing we can do, pray. Pray to the Father. Hey, that's the only thing we got to go there. Because they got the money, they got this, they got that. We can't manage, we can't tell them what to do from when to do, where to talk.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And when these things, when they do all these things focus down here.
Of course.
Because can't the lady be calling back in the 70s when they coming up as a young man coming up. Rain. Back in the 80s, rain. You find rain fall. You know, almost throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I realize now only at this time when hurricane coming, right? When the hurricane season, rain coming. Eh? I remember when you had the sugar industry. I do know that it was a blessing for us from the Father, but because we used to get consistent rain all the time. You understand? Yeah, the little bad weather between and the little dry weather and everything. But farmers used to do plenty better than before. Look at it. A couple showers fall last month here, just last month.
Mm-hmm.
And the place come green. And look, and the place just get hot.
And it looks dry again.
91 from Sunday, come up to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the place just getting hotter and hotter all the time. So that is where we got to the prayer and stop being negative towards these things. Let me pray to God that the hurricane might come and just drive out from us and do whatever. If it comes yes, rain, let me pray for the rain. If it gets come, let me pray for the wind. Because we want everything the place hot. And the heat, I made to understand that the hurricane. So just let me pray for the best.
Yes, sir.
And we must be negative from who do this and who do that.
All right.
Okay then, nice program.
Thank you very much, sir. You have a good night. Thank you very much for calling. And as we're talking about the heat and the dry weather and so on, we can get back to the hurricane season now. Now, Mr. Dyer, I am wondering. I know that God has been good to us. We have been spared for a couple of years well, and you know we haven't had any major storms, and let's not go because we don't want any this year and any in the future either. You know, I'm wondering though, when you have these storms developing out there, do people pay enough attention to the weather reports? Do you think people are listening? People are paying attention?
I think they are. Especially now we have so many persons who are utilizing these social media platforms that are bringing information. some have now honed it down to the Caribbean islands. Some previously, the big stations, they would bring some information, but if it's not directly impacting the U.S. countries,
like the Weather Channel,
yes, we would not get any information at all,
right,
concerning our countries. Now we see a few persons are taking their time and discussing what would occur in these small islands.
Right, because I saw an excellent report. I think was somebody from Jamaica. I think it was last weekend, and she was so meticulous. She was so detailed, and it was an excellent report.
Yes, we now see our own providing information for our own, so that's a plus.
Yes,
right, and the local disaster management offices have been doing human service in providing public information and awareness of what the impact could be for a hurricane, etc. We have, the older folks would have been impacted.
Yes.
And that was, when you are punished, you you tend to remember the punishment for a long time. So we have had Hugo, we had several others before, and then we had George's last major impact. We have had Lenny and Omar that destroyed our economy.
Yes.
We have had several others since then, but they were glancing blows. So in 2017 was the wake-up call when Irma came on the scene with 185 miles sustained with 225 miles an hour gusts. That was an eye-opener for many. So I think we all got the message from Irma. Then we saw Joaquin, who destroyed the Bahamas, and Joaquin came from, as you mentioned earlier, a tropical storm to category 5 within
rapid
36 hours.
Yes.
And then we had Dorian, who sat over the Bahamas again for 3 days at category 5. So persons have gotten the message. So I think we are now seeing the benefits of persons paying attention.
We have another call online. Good evening, caller. You're live on the mark. We lost that call. Caller, we have another about 16 more minutes to go. So if you want to get a call in quickly, we are talking about the hurricane season, the heat and so on. If you want to call in or anything else you want to call in to talk about, of course, we know this is a show that you can call in with anything. Good evening, caller. You're live on the mark. Hello.
Yes, what happened lately? The little nuclear thing they see up in Taiwan or something about up there. I'm to them people, I know China, like in the news I'm hearing, that China said they want to buy the fish because we were where you want. But what happened? They saying the fish them not going to get sick right now, must a couple of years from now. So all the time we believe they see rolling that thing on the day, the waste thing on the day. Lord help us. Because I did not know if they couldn't find somewhere to bury it. My stomach, that's craziness, So sooner or later when we getting things stuff from overseas, people just getting sick and don't even know what they're getting sick about.
Well, if you were listening us earlier, you would have heard about how the doctor was talking about eating healthy and that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of things we're discussing tonight, very, very pertinent issues. But thank you very much for calling in again. And Mr. Dyer, thank you. Mr. Dyer, if we're getting back to our the hurricane season and so on, I know some people are still a little bit relaxed. What do people need to do to be prepared during the hurricane season? Give us a few tips. I know time is running away from us.
Yeah, first of all, we encourage all families to have a disaster plan for their home and ensure that each family member know what's in the plan. And we should have a communications plan. In the event all communications goes down, where the family would meet, whether it's by a family in another district or by a neighbor, that need to be discussed. We need to look at conditions in the immediate surrounding of the home, whether you're trimming your trees, you're cleaning your drains, you secure what's in your home, taking photos, secure your documents. Exactly. You have to know where your shelters are. In the event that your home is destroyed, you have to go to a government shelter. In Nevis, we will be operating 10 shelters if we are impacted for this year. And we must know the route to the shelters, who to contact in the event of the shelter are opened, and what to take to a shelter. It's important persons know that you have to take food supply for a minimum 3 days, even though there will be a general feeding program. Take a blanket or something, some sleeping material. Close for 3 days minimum. And if you have children, then you have to look at some entertainment for your children. I know we are glued to Wi-Fi, but Wi-Fi may not be available.
Precisely.
So
how are we going to get the entertainment?
Look for a favorite toy.
Play some games. Go back to the old days.
Board games or reading books. Yeah. You know, tell stories. You have to be creative in keeping your children occupied.
And keep the stress level down.
I must say though, the life in the shelter is not the best. So we usually encourage the body system first before persons will go to the shelters. So if you have a family or a friend that could host you for the time your house is impacted, until it is repaired, then we encourage you to go to that family.
But Mr. Dyer, I mean, the life in the shelter is not that bad, because I could recall a couple of years ago, a storm was passing, and I living in Hanley's Road, a couple of persons came to the community center, the Charles Walters Community Center, and I decided, well, listen, I'm going to go up there and keep their company. And I went up there. I stayed with them for several nights, and it gives you an opportunity to communicate. It gives you an opportunity to chat with each other, to bust jokes, and so it's not that bad.
It's not that bad, but it is not as comfortable.
No, it's not as comfortable, but at least it gives you time to reflect as well.
Yes.
And gives you chance, because nowadays people are not communicating with each other. Exactly. It gives you an opportunity to talk,
So, yeah, the life in the shelter, we encourage person use the body system. If not, then you will be housed in a shelter. And there's a feeding program, there's a healthcare program, that is arranged from the disaster management entity. So we encourage also persons to become volunteers. The services that is required during an impact varies.
Yes.
So whether you're cook, whether you could pray, you're driver, you're good at counseling, you're good at radio communications, carrying messages, you're cleaning up, the whole gambit. Damage assessment, needs assessment, and report writing, the whole gambit need to be addressed. So if you can get volunteers to take part in these activities, become trained before the impact or during the impact, because some person learn while performing the duty. So we request that as many persons as possible give up their time to serve their country with regards to volunteerism.
Fantastic. Now we have just another 10 minutes, and just before we wrap up, Mr. Dyer, there's some information I needed to get out regarding, of course, we know this is our 40th anniversary of independence, and we are asking persons to make sure you have some national pride. We want people to take part in the independence activities for this year. There are numerous independence activities. You need to be glued to your radio, your television, to social media, to be aware of some of the things that are happening. But there's one particular event that I wanted to highlight for tonight, and of course that is the Freedom Concert that is happening on National Heroes Day. That's on Saturday the 16th of September, and it's from 7 p.m. and it's happening at the Cultural Village right here in Charlestown. And let me just indicate who some of the local acts would be. We have Deli Ranks, we have Daddy Tusty, we have Speedy, we have Itabulous, we have the Grandmasters Band, we have DJ Smudge, we have New Level Sound. And in terms of our international artists, we have coming from neighboring Antigua, we have Claudette Peters and Burning Flames. And we also have from Jamaica, we have Romain Virgo, we have Christopher Martin and Jamil. Let me repeat those artists, the local artists: Deli Ranks, Daddy Tusty, Speedy, Itebulous, Grandmasters Band, DJ Smudge, New Level Sound. We have out of Antigua, we have Claudette Peters, we have Burning Flames, we have Romain Virgo, we have Christopher Martin, we have Jamil from Jamaica, and it will be hosted by Woodis, DJ Woodis. And guess what? With all of this, it will be free of charge. You hear that? It will be absolutely free. Now, if you would recall, we did plan a Freedom concert last year. The weather came and messed things up. We were not able to host the concert, but your Nevis Island administration is bringing it back again for this year, and we are hopeful that the weather will be kind to us this year, Mr. Dyer. So maybe you can send out an SOS to the Atlantic and said, keep the storms out there for this particular weekend. And so we are hopeful that we'll get great weather for Saturday, the 16th of September, National Heroes Day, when we are putting on this massive Freedom concert. You know that we have put on Freedom concerts in the past. We've had a packed audience at the Cultural Village, and so we are hopeful that everyone can come out. It's going to be a Saturday night. You don't have to work on Sunday, so you can come out. You can line late. It's going to be free. You don't have to pay to enter. So we want people to come out and celebrate our independence. 40 years. And as I said, we are doing a lot of things for independence this year. Of course, this year we are focusing a lot on beautification. We are focusing a lot on dressing up our public places. This year things are going to be a little bit different with regards to the ceremonial parades. The ceremonial parade in St. Kitts will be held on the evening of the 18th. And that will be it will be climaxing around midnight, and then on the 19th, which is Independence Day, the parade would be held on Nevis, and this time we're doing it in the evening from 5:30. We spoke about the heat, and we know normally when we have the parade in the morning, people fall down sometimes, they faint, and so we are looking at that, and so we are having it in the evening this time from 5:30. We want people to come out with their flags, come out in their national colors, and just come out and support the activities. Let us be proud of our nationhood. We have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark. We lost that caller. And so I was talking about our independence, our 40th anniversary. There are a lot of activities spread over going till the end of the month. And remember, for your national colors there, the national color for Friday will be yellow. And so we're asking you to come out in your numbers, particularly for the National Heroes Day concert. I know a lot of persons from St. Kitts will be coming over. We welcome you over to witness our local and our international artists that will be on show for the National Heroes Day Freedom Concert. As I said, it's absolutely free. Come out in your numbers and just have a good, fantastic, good, clean fun on the 16th of September. And please be a part of all of the activities. Put on your national colors. When you hear the national anthem, you stand at attention. And of course, whatever activities you can go to, whatever you can support, we're asking you to support for this, especially our 40th anniversary. And listen, when you drive through Charlestown tomorrow, when you drive on the Samuel Hunkins Drive, you're going to see a magnificent display. I am not going to tell you what you're going to see. You need to drive on the Samuel Hunkins Drive, whether tonight or tomorrow. You have to drive in the day so you can see what's going on there. Okay? So there's a special treat on the Samuel Hunkins Drive. Make sure you drive on the Samuel Hunkins Drive tomorrow. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Just make sure you drive there tomorrow. It's just about 4 minutes before 10 o'clock. Mr. Dyer, we have been speaking about the current weather situations. We've been talking about the system out there. Maybe you can remind persons who maybe just tuned in. What are the update? What is the update on the system? How are we faring? How will we be impacted, if we will be impacted, before we wrap up?
All right, again, Hurricane Lee is expected to become a major hurricane in 1 or 2 days. It is intensifying as we speak. Currently the winds are 75 miles per hour. It is expected to go up as close to or exceed 150 miles an hour, and it should pass the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis sometime on Saturday, going into the evening on Saturday, as the forward speed is slowing down a bit, so it will take longer to pass us as it intensifies. However, on its current track, the model guidance shows that it would pass to the north of the islands at a safe distance of some 250 miles probably. Once it maintains the current track, we should be safe, but we should get some impact, especially with regards to the sea conditions. That is expected to deteriorate rapidly on Friday, so we should see some sea swells getting 10 to 15 feet probably. Depends on the size of the hurricane at that time.
Even though it's so far away?
Even though it's so far away, we should see 10 to 15 foot swells. There should be some rip currents. We want persons to stay away from the beach for this weekend, as the sea condition would be not conducive for regular sea bathing. And we may see some depletion in our sun on our beaches. So we may have to do some assessment to our beaches after the passage of Hurricane Lee. We may experience some wind in the order of tropical storm force winds up to probably 40 miles an hour, especially in rain showers. With regards to the rainfall, we may not get more than an inch or inch and a half of rainfall. It depends on the magnitude and the frequency of the rain bands circulating. So whatever we get with regards to rain showers, we should be grateful.
Okay.
You know, but the major impact should be the sea conditions.
All right.
Right.
Mr. Dyer, I want to thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for sharing such pertinent information with us. I mean, these are discussions we need to have more often. People need to know what's going on with the weather. We have a caller, quickly, caller. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Hey.
You have 30 seconds.
Hey.
Yes.
Yeah, good night.
Good night. Make it quick. Time is running out.
Yeah, I know, I realize. I was hear up to me by them up there in America and St. Croix.
Okay.
Aggressive and now and as this. Good night.
All right. Thank you very much. And as you say good night to Dave, I want to say good night to Dave down there in the Virgin Islands as well. Sympathies to you. I hope you're holding up, you and your family are holding up well. And so we're going to end on that note. And Mr. Dyer, once again, we want to thank you very much for coming and speaking with us about, of course, the hurricane season. We want persons to always be aware that the hurricane season goes all the way down until November 30th. And so we must always try as much as possible to keep updated. And once again, I'm reminding you, this big freedom concert coming up on National Heroes Day, Saturday, September 16th from 7 p.m. at the Cultural Village. The admission is absolutely free. Our local acts, Deli Ranks, Daddy Tusty, Speedy, Itabulous, Grandmasters, DJ Smudge, New Level Sound. Our international artists, we have Claudette Peters and Burning Flames from Antigua. We have Romain Virgo, Christopher Martin, and Jamil from Jamaica. And so we're asking you to come out in your numbers. And remember, let us all have some national pride for this, our 40th anniversary of independence. I want to thank Mr. Dyer once again. Of course, I also want to thank Dr. Charlie Rouse for those pertinent information he gave earlier with regards to heart conditions. And of course, I want to thank Africa Wilkes for calling in and giving that fantastic testimony regarding the voucher program and that great endorsement. So thank all who called in. Thank you all for listening. Of course, remember to tune in again tomorrow from 1 o'clock. Of course, it's been my pleasure. Have a wonderful night. God bless. Thank you.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.